Hey, what is going on guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the most played champions in the higher elos for patch 8.2. So I'm going to give 3 champions, or I'm going to give you the top 3 champions for each role in this patch that are being played the most, and we're going to break down and discuss why these champions are being so highly prioritized in patch 8.2. So we're going to start off down in the bot lane for this patch because this is the lane that has changed, I'd say, the most over the past few patches. So in the support role for this patch, the 3 most picked right now are Janna, Lulu, and Braum, and they're also statistically 3 of the highest win rate supports in patch 8.2. So when a champion both has a high pick rate and also has a high win rate, then it does mean a lot of the time that the champion is very strong in that patch. What you do in this patch is you rush a Frostfang. After that, you don't finish your support item off. You go straight into an Ardent Censer and then like a Redemption after that. An Ardent Censer rush on these supports is doing super well. We're seeing a lot of these hyper carry ADs being played again in 8.2. With Ezreal getting nerfed now, we're not really seeing as much as him. We're seeing a lot more Kog'Maw and Tristana in 8.2. So an early Ardent Censer just synergizes very well with those AD carries. And then all 3 of these support picks, Janna, Lulu, and Braum, do a very good job at countering a lot of the most played champions in the top lane in this patch. We're seeing pretty much only carries being played right now in the top lane across most elos. There's very few tanks being played, so you're seeing a ton of Camille, a ton of Riven, Jax, these champions that want to and need to dive onto your back line in teamfights to be successful. And when you've got your Lulu polymorph, when you have your Janna ultimate, when you've got your Braum ultimate, they can just do a really good job at countering these dive champions that are doing very well in this patch and that are being played a lot. And then for the AD carry role in this patch, the 3 most picked right now are Tristana, Varus, and Kog'Maw. So Trist and Kog'Maw are really good in this meta. Because of the Relic Shield changes, it was, I think, last patch, it's moved the support meta over to more of these range supports that have really good disengage. We're seeing a lot less of these melee supports being played in this patch, so it's just really good paired up with the Kog'Maw and the Tristana. You can just keep them very safe in team fights, and I think that the Kog Lulu combo in this patch right now is definitely one of the strongest if you can play it well. And then as for Varus, he was pretty bad in the Relic Shield meta just because you're picking Varus a lot of the time for either his utility with his ultimate or to have a really strong early to mid game. And because of the Relic Shield meta, you couldn't really do too much in the early game with Varus, and therefore there wasn't too much point in picking him. But because sustain in the laning phase is a lot less now, it allows Varus to have his strong laning phase and be able to pressure in lane, and I think that's what's making him a lot stronger now in 8.2. And then for mid lane in this patch, I'm going to give 3 picks, and then I'm also going to give an honorable mention because it does look like over the next patch or so, the honorable mention champion here is going to see a lot more play. So these 3 picks are going to be Vlad, Xerath, and Azir, and then Galio mid is a pick that is on the rise right now in the higher elos. So as for Vladimir, even though they did remove Frost Queens, he still is performing very well in patch 8.2. You're going to take the spellbook on Vladimir, your flash is going to be on a reduced cooldown, and once you reach the mid to late game, it just allows Vladimir to constantly be looking for those flash plays, look for those all-in combos, and if you can reach your 2 to 3 item spike with Vladimir and you can play him correctly, I think he is one of the strongest and most impactful mid laners in patch 8.2. And then also he does really well because of stopwatch. When you are playing Vladimir, if you don't get ganked before you hit level 6 or before you get your stopwatch, it's almost impossible to actually kill a Vladimir when you are trying to gank him because he's got his pool, he's also going to have his stopwatch, he's got a ton of sustain, so this champion is just very hard to deal with in patch 8.2. And then as for Xerath and Azir, I think Xerath is still pretty underrated right now. I think he is one of the strongest mid laners in this patch. The only champion that I've really had trouble with when playing Xerath in these past few patches is Fizz. So you just ban out Fizz every game and you're going to have a really safe, really reliant mid lane pick in Xerath. And then as for Azir, he still is a pretty solid pick if you can play him well. I don't think he is as strong as he was a few patches ago, but I think that if you've mastered this champion, or if you can play him to a good level, then he still is going to be a very strong mid lane pick in 8.2. And then for this mid lane Galio pick, I think he does synergize really well with a lot of these most played top laners and junglers in 8.2. We're seeing a ton of Camille in the top lane. Camille's like one of the most picked top laners right now, and Galio paired up with a champion like Camille or like Zac, it just allows him to constantly be able to get his ultimate off on the back line. And as long as you can rely on your top laner to reach the back line, and your Camille, for example, to ult the AD carry, then you're going to be very successful on this Galio mid pick, which is why I think he is seeing a lot more play in the higher elos, just because you can rely a little bit more on your team to like know what you have to do to win. As long as you do have a teammate who does have the ability to consistently dive on the back line, then you are going to have great success with Galio in this patch. Now for the jungle in 8.2, the jungle role hasn't really changed over the past few patches, so I'm just going to briefly go over the role. So right now we've got Jarvan, Kha'Zix, and Sejuani as 3 of the most picked, and then another champion here that is rising in this patch, and that should be rising a lot more over the next few patches, is Skarner. So for Jarvan, Kha'Zix, and Sejuani, I think all 3 of these picks are really good right now depending on the situation. So if your team's lacking a tank, I think Sejuani is the best tank jungler for patch 8.2. If you want an assassin, if you're an aggressive jungler, then Kha'Zix is really good right now. Then as for Jarvan, I think Jarvan's just a super versatile pick. So if you don't really know what your team comp needs yet, if you're early in the draft and you don't know if you want an assassin or a tank or a bruiser, then Jarvan is just a very solid pick as well. And then as for this Skarner pick, he's slowly but surely starting to see a lot more play as the patch rolls on. I think this pick is the most underrated jungler for patch 8.2, and in my opinion, by patch 8.3 or a little bit after patch 8.3, I think this champion will become one of the most picked junglers and one of the most prioritized junglers, at least in solo queue. He's just a really good pick after the buffs he received. His buff to his E is just helping him out a lot, and as more and more people start actually maxing out E on Skarner, he is doing a lot better in 8.2. And then for the top lane right now in this patch, I've kind of briefly already touched on a few of these champions at other parts in the video, but right now the Camille, Jax, and then Gangplank are 3 of the most picked for this patch. So for Camille and Jax, they are 2 of the stronger bruiser or fighter top laners in this patch. I think Camille is definitely going to be your most reliant, most consistent top lane pick. She is by far one of the most picked right now in the higher elos. Pretty much every single like high elo top laner right now does have Camille in their champion pool. You can either run the Comet, or a lot more people now are starting to run Aftershock on Camille depending on the matchup. If you're in a matchup to where you are going to be trying to all in a lot and you want to pressure, then taking that Aftershock because of the buffs it got in this patch is actually a really good option now. And then for Gangplank, over the past few months, this champion has been one of the strongest top laners. Kleptomancy is just extremely good on the pick. It synergizes way too good with his kit, and it just allows him to generate a ton of gold in the early game. He can reach his mid to late game power spike a lot sooner than he could before, and then he can just become an insanely strong threat once you do reach team fighting. So that is going to be all for this video, guys. These are the champions in this patch right now that if you've put time into them and you know how to play them well, then they are going to be 3 of the strongest champions in 8.2 for every single role. So with that being said, if you guys did enjoy the video, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.